Sounds good. Thank you so much, Matthew. So welcome everyone to the session today on Microsoft Copilot agents. Wow, this is something that I could have never dreamed of happening um, for the way that we use our applications today. I personally use Copilot every single day, and I am relatively new to agents. It isn't something that I am an expert in by any means. It is something that does have a learning curve to it. So baby steps. Now we'll get into a little bit of what all that means here, but what exactly is a Copilot agent? Well, an agent is an additional tool that can work directly with Copilots. So here in Microsoft 365, as Matthew was saying, we can have access to Microsoft Copilot in all of our 365 applications as long as we have the appropriate licensing. So Microsoft Copilot 365, that works directly with the connectivity of all of your 365 apps, is what you would need to have to be able to take advantage of using these agents. So there are some requirements. So if you don't see agents, it's probably because of your licensing, and you would maybe need to be contacting your IT department. Also, when we do get into looking at some of the agents that are available and how to create an agent, some organizations are locking some features down. I didn't realize this until just the past couple of weeks, but some organizations want to limit who has rights to actually create an agent. So it's kind of part of your planning and how you're going to implement Copilot and Copilot agents to your organization, which we highly recommend you have a plan of attack before you just start using these tools. Really kind of figure out what licensing structure will be best for the coworkers and which coworkers are going to need access to utilizing these tools, or which coworkers can simply use a free version of Copilot. That's all part of really a big scale plan. And of course, companies like Smart Dolphins, of course, can be helping you with that situation. So when it comes to these agents, another thing that I just want to give you a side note on before we kind of take a look at some of this is that not all agents are free. If you are opening or using an agent that is part of the Microsoft list of agents, which I'll show you what all that means here as we do some demonstrations, but some of them are not free. I've tried adding some of them and they'll give me a 7-day trial, but then after that I have to purchase it. So I don't even know. I'm going to kind of try the trial first on some of these to see if they're going to be beneficial to me or not. I wish they were all free and we could just, try them, and if we don't want them, we could remove them, that kind of a thing, but not everything is going to be free. So you really want to have some experts in your organization that are going to be able to really have the understanding as to what agents people should be using, what do we don't want people to have access to. There can be some definite configuration issues that we can run into, and we just need to kind of plan before we start using. I can't say enough about really thinking about this as an organization, because these can be very powerful tools and they do workflows. So if you've been investigating Power Apps or workflows at all, we know how workflows can actually manipulate data. These agents can do that same thing. So we do have to use caution with these agents because they can be a powerful tool. They can be used with code, etc. So, and that's kind of where we want to have limits on who can do what with some of these agents as well, is because they can use code. Sometimes to configure them, you have to understand code. Some of these agents do not get set up very easily. Sometimes you do have to program them to get the full benefits out of how they work. But there are some agents that Microsoft has built that companies can purchase. We'll get into a little bit of that here as we kind of go through, but to be honest, Copilot, of course, is the big aspect of using Microsoft 365 these days. It's not going away. They are continuously improving it. Are continuously adding new features, and agents is a big part of that now. It is not something that everyone is using yet. It is relatively new. But once again, just like anything, we always need to use caution. Of course, this being part of Microsoft, the security side of things, we are protected. So just like using Copilot, agents are part of that Copilot, and it has the Microsoft stamp of approval on the security. So if you have any questions on security, I can't answer a ton of those. I don't know a lot about how all that works in the background, but I just know that we are very secure when it comes to using Copilot and these Copilot agents. Okay, people have been asking me, and it's like, I don't know enough about how all that works in the background. I'm not a technician. I don't really get into all of that. I'm more of an end user and an administrator on small areas. But let's dive into a little bit more about Copilot agents before we take a look at how to actually use them. So I wanted to walk through a few benefits first to get us started on, what are some reasons why people are actually going to use an agent. They enhance productivity, 100%. Agents take on automating processes, generating reports, helping to update information. It's like an additional assistant to your Copilot is kind of the way I kind of think about it. It's going to help improve accuracy and consistency in our tests as well. It has very reliable ways of doing that. We can be building in data validation. It can help us with data analysis. It can help us with data cleanup. It is shocking as we start to learn more and more about what these agents are going to be able to do. It's your personalized assistant tailored to individual needs. That is a very powerful little statement there. Personalized assistant and tailored to individual needs. If you ever go into, let's say that your company needs to have customer service available, whether it's for your employees or through the HR department, or it's through your customers with your products or your services. An agent can actually be used as the prompt that we say they're coming in and they're asking this type of a question, keywords within that question they're asking, this agent can come in and say, here's some suggested answers. So if you've ever been out on somebody's help website before, chatting with the system, that's an agent. That's a customer service agent. They're sales agents. So you could go on to like HP.com and be looking for a new laser printer, a new inkjet printer, whatever your case, a new laptop. And it can prompt you for additional questions. Those are agents. So Microsoft is developing agents with Copilot that are going to be specifically related to accounting, to sales, CRM systems, etc., etc. They've already released some of these, and they're continuing to improve those and create more depending on your industry. It is the wave of the future, seriously. These agents that we're going to be using on a day-to-day basis. So some key features of agents, productivity assistance. It can help us with managing schedules, managing emails, with document creation. You need to create a report, you need to create a contract, etc. Information retrieval is a big part of using these agents as well. Kind of that, back to that, I have these questions, where am I going to find that information? We program it with our data in our database so that as it picks up on these keywords, it's using the database in the background. And that's where all this programming On some of this more sophisticated agents, it's going to come into play. Not something that I personally would probably set up. I don't know if I want to even get into that part of using agents. I'll show you some everyday things we could do with agents instead today. We'll save another class for getting into the other aspects of using agents. But conversational support, like I was talking about, offering support or insights on getting help on doing something. If we have a customized system, let's say we have an AS400 and it's running all of our retail stores and people have a question, they can be using an agent to help answer those questions. And then, of course, offer the fact that they could chat with an additional support person, go to a live person if the agent can help answer the questions that they had. Adaptability is the fact that these agents are extremely intelligent and they learn as they go, and they can be tailored for each individual user's preferences. That's a pretty powerful feature that we have. So where exactly can you use agents? You can use agents in Microsoft Teams. We'll see an example a little bit on where you could access an agent that's already in Microsoft Teams, or we personally could create an agent. If you know how, you could create an agent to do other things inside Teams. There are agents we can add in, but like I said, not all of them are free. We can create our own. There's a lot of different aspects to this. There's ones included. Some are for free, some are not. We can create our own agents, and Microsoft is implementing agents directly within these applications that are already there. So I'll show you an example of one in Microsoft Teams. Excel can use agents as well for helping to generate pivot tables, do charts, do any type of data analysis. I mentioned data cleanup, all of those types of aspects. Those are not, as of today, I know this is going to change in the next few months and throughout the end of the year. There aren't any active agents in Excel by default as of today. I looked to see if there were any that were going to be released here shortly. I didn't find any, but that's not to say there won't be an agent available in Excel in the next 2 weeks. I don't know for sure, but we can create an agent. We can use an agent that somebody else has developed, which, by the way, when you create an agent, it can be shared with your coworkers. So that's the way that someone creates the agent, somebody that needs to do the programming for extensive ones. They create the programming for it, and then they share it with their coworkers, etc. We can use them in Word. Now, there is a way to do that today. So I'll briefly show you how you can actually use an agent through Microsoft Word. PowerPoint is going to be the same as Microsoft Word. The way that we access the agents, the way that we can create the agents in those applications will be exactly the same. Excel is just different than Word and PowerPoint because in Excel, we're not really having it help us write things. So it's a little bit different of a breed. So it's coming, but it will be there. But agents, of course, are going to be available in Outlook. As a matter of fact, we're going to be using agents extensively in Outlook. And over the next couple of months, I already know that there are some that will be integrated directly within Outlook. I didn't get an update here in the past week or so on my 365, but I think there's something going to be released here shortly that is Outlook related. Otherwise, we can create them, or we can use an already developed agent that already works with Outlook, just like Excel. Okay, SharePoint already has built-in agents. So we're going to see an example of where those are located as well, and they will continue to add additional agents to SharePoint, PowerPoint, Word, Teams where we already have them, and then of course implement them into the apps that don't physically have them on a menu within the app as well. So how a Copilot relates to an AI agent is something we need to understand. So a Copilot like our Microsoft 365 Copilot, is an AI-powered assistant that, of course, can help us be more productive and creative, giving us real-life support, suggestions, and guidance. That's how Copilot works. All Copilots do. Agents are specialized, I should say, and can be used with a Copilot to help automate tasks and do minimal input by the end user, and it will do all the processing in the background. They can respond to and resolve user inquiries, like I was saying with the Q&A kind of back and forth with the agent. They can operate independently. They can be, of course, real time. So if somebody's chatting with the system, it's in real time. We can create a list of suggested prompts that they get started with, which I see those all the time in customer support websites already. They can also run business processes, adapt to new challenges, and improve over time. That is kind of scary to me. Improve over time. Pretty cool how we could do that. But Microsoft Copilot, for instance, features several agents that they're already released. They're already available. I mentioned these a second ago: Copilot for sales, Copilot for service, Copilot for finance. Those are already created and available for companies to purchase and start using. So if you're in finance, especially this time of the year, everybody's crashing to try and get their taxes and stuff done here at the end of the year. We need to kind of be thinking about, what kind of processes do we as an organization need to use? Well, if you're going to be using this and developing your own, stop and think, is there something already out there that's already developed that we could be using? If we're a sales organization, should we just be using the Copilot for sales, where it already has the agents already implemented? It can also be connected with your CRM system, your Salesforce, et cetera, et cetera. So we don't always have to do things on our own. Sometimes we want Microsoft to really use or develop and maintain all of that for us. We don't always have to reinvent the wheel. But I do want to show you just this very quick video here. I just think that this was a good video to kind of help explain this. Copilot agents.
Start with ready agents. Microsoft 365 Copilot. For more, agents are free to work with a specific set of data, documents and emails to that clear gives super
Drilling audio with the video.
What was that, Matthew?
We're not hearing any audio from the video.
We must have forgot to turn audio on for me. I do have that as a link, just so everybody knows. I do have this as a link in the handout. So at the end of your handout, you do have links to different websites corresponding to information about Microsoft Copilot, and that's in there, just so you know. So anyway, that's okay. You can go back and watch that. And this website also gives you other videos that you can watch as well. There's actually this browse all Copilot videos that you can go into. And I do recommend, there's a lot of really good ones out there that will help give you a better understanding as to, based on your industry, how might you take advantage of using Copilot in these agents? Okay, so something you want to definitely be planning, as I said. I can't say enough about the planning side of using Copilot. It is going to be a very essential feature. We definitely need to be planning things out. So back to kind of describing what these agents are before we dive into some examples of these. Agents can think or reason. They can remember. They can be trained, and even know when to ask for help. So if they don't understand what you're asking for, they're going to ask you to give them more detail. I get the shivers kind of thinking about this, because can you imagine what this is going to do for us, making our lives so much easier. Agents can be taught new skills like the ability to send emails, create support tickets, and update records. You can teach them to interact to events or triggers, such as an email from a customer. It can respond depending on the content of what came in that email, as long as we train it to do that. If an agent needs clarification on something, it's going to check with you for guidance, as I mentioned. Think of this as Copilot as your smartphone, and the agents are like the apps that are used on your smartphone. I saw this on a website once, and I thought that is a perfect way to be thinking about what agents are. But there are different types of agents. So they put them into these different categories, declarative agents, custom engine, etc. So general purpose agents, which are the ones that we probably would be creating ourselves and using the most. Simple prompt and response agents. So there are different categories of the types of agents and what these agents then would be able to do. But best practices for implementing agents is definitely something you want to be thinking about. Identify the use cases, so kind of think about how is an agent going to help you in your organization to help in these specific areas. Start building and testing on single items first. Don't try and think that you're going to do this for your entire organization immediately. Do a lot of research. Research and select the appropriate AI solutions. Choose the solution that is going to be easiest to use for your coworkers, your customers, your vendors, whoever's going to be using them, but something that it's going to be able to adapt with changes that you would have based on those different types of scenarios. I can't say enough about doing a lot of research. The more you watch those videos, look at examples, the more you're going to learn about how this works. Pilot testing. We never release a new software program to our employees and stuff until we test them first to make sure everything works correctly. We're not going to release an agent to our coworkers unless it's been tested as well. So we have some kind of best practices that we do need to follow when we are working on implementing a situation that's going to require an agent. Okay, some example scenarios of using them is in environment, the company's customer service chat platform. Objectives would be to reduce response time, handle common queries, improve customer satisfaction. But it needs to understand and be able to respond to the customer's inquiries accurately. So that's where we have to build it, where it knows the key words to do the correct response. It has learning mechanisms to train the agents on historical data, because all of these chat features, AI, is based on large language models where they're trained, and these have to be trained basically as well. So test the agents in real customer interactions. Make sure that you're seeing if there's any errors that are happening and make sure those errors are getting fixed. There's going to be this life cycle of things that we need to really kind of follow to implement this correctly. So when you look at this, is a small list of step-by-step instructions to create a customer service agent. There's a lot more detail that goes into all 8 of these than what I have listed, but I kind of wanted to put this into reality for you that, some of these, yes, we're going to see some simple examples here in a second, but some of these are going to require a lot of planning and a lot of input from different areas of your organization. So environment setup, we have to know the platform, we need to know the server situations where the database information is going to be coming from and who's going to be updating it and monitoring the issues that we're having, the objective settings, what is going to be our average response time that the agent is going to have, different policies and procedures that we need to have in place, because of course this is part of Copilot, we always have to have policies and procedures in place. The learning mechanism as to how How is it going to learn from historical data to update the current information? But if we stop and think about all of these 8 different areas, there's a lot that can go into these, but it will be worth it in the end. Definitely. So when it comes to really what is the output, what is going to be the future of what's going on with this, Copilot agents are definitely revolutionizing, I should say, I can't talk today, work that we will be doing throughout this year of 2025. This is kind of that introduction. Microsoft wants everybody to be using Copilot. And I don't know if you've been watching any sports on TV, but I'm even seeing the Copilot logo on courts. Matthew, I don't know if they were doing it in hockey at all, but I watch a lot of basketball and I see it on the court all the time. So Microsoft is really focused this year on implementing Copilot and Copilot agents. Have you seen it at all on banners or anything, advertisements for hockey?
I can't say that I've seen it in hockey, but I've seen it on the F1 cars. So
Yes.
definitely it's out and about.
Oh, absolutely. And Microsoft's not going to drop their commitment to this. This is their future. This is the future of the way businesses are going to be run. So it's not a matter of if you're going to do this. It's more, I believe, this is my personal opinion, I think it's more of when are we going to implement this. A lot of people are still transitioning over to Microsoft 365. This isn't something you would probably implement immediately. We implement other things to get the business going first. Then these are things that we'll do after the fact. Okay? But let's dive into some examples on how we're actually going to use these tools. So one of the ways that we can actually use Copilot agents is if you go to Copilot. If you just open up your Copilot app, you can, of course, open your Copilot app from multiple places. I happen to be logged into my Microsoft account right now. On the left-hand side, we conveniently have this new sidebar, this new navigation on the left, where it automatically gives us access to Copilot. So this is a recent change this year in 2025. So what you're going to find when you come into Copilot is on the right-hand side is where you're going to find your agent information. So agents are a part of Copilot. They don't work outside of Copilot. Technically, you have to have Copilot to use agents. So what you're seeing in my group is just a couple of agents that I've actually been using. This decisions one is one that I just added, and that's one that I have the 7 days trial. But I'll come back and show you how it works because you want to find agents that are going to work with you. So anyway, the first thing that I would recommend everybody does is when you come into Copilot, doesn't matter how you get there, go to the right-hand side and click Get Agents. Get Agents will open up a dialog box giving you categories on the left-hand side. I'll give it a second to see if it opens. I was just telling Matthew before we started that I was having a little bit of issue today getting into my agents. Works just fine in Teams and other applications, but so let me actually jump into it a different way here. Let me go to Microsoft Teams. And on the left-hand side of Microsoft Teams in the sidebar, you'll find Copilot there as well. So we can actually access Copilot from a lot of different places. We can even get to Copilot through the new Outlook. So if your company is using the new Outlook, it's on the left-hand side as well. But notice when I come into Copilot here in Teams, it looks the same. On the right-hand side, I have my Get Agents. And I'll see if it will work here in this one. Sometimes it just takes a second for it to open. I just started having this issue this morning. I apologize. It was working fine for a long time. I haven't had any issues whatsoever. So I apologize for that, but hopefully it will open here in just a second. In the meantime, I'm just going to jump to something else while I'm waiting for it to get to this. Let me show you how to use it in different applications. So let's say that I'm actually in Microsoft. Yep, it's giving me my error. Okay, I'm just going to close it from there, and I'm just going to close Microsoft Teams and I'll come back to it. But like I said, in the meantime, let me just do this. So let me say that I'm in Microsoft Word. And this happens to be the handout, by the way. I don't usually open it as a PDF. I just open up the live document as I'm kind of going through the class. And how could I actually take advantage of an agent here in Microsoft Word? If you open your Copilot pane by going to your home tab of the ribbon, click on your Copilot icon. As I mentioned earlier, it is built in. Therefore, we have access to it directly within Copilot by going to the top left of the Copilot window. Notice the icon is a little bit different here. If you go into Excel, you just see Copilot at the top. You're not going to see the same menu. You're not going to see the same menu. But here in Word and PowerPoint, you can click Switch Copilots, which means it's going to take you into the agents. I don't know why they say switch Copilots, because we're in Copilot 365. It's a little weird to me. I don't know if they'll change that. But anyway, you will see any of the agents that you have already added to your Copilot agents list. Notice I can get agents. I'm going to cross my fingers here and see if it will work. It's not taking me to my get agents. It's talking about adding agents. Normally this get agents, as you can see from where it took me, which is weird because normally it would take me directly to the actual get agents window that I'm having difficulty opening for whatever reason right at this moment. But just so you can see, this is the instructions. I don't know why it took me here. It's never done this before. But anyway, let me jump back. Let me see if I can actually get this to go to the Copilot agent. I'm going to close that. I'm going to go back and see if I can get back into Microsoft Teams okay, and see if I can get that agent to open, or I'll try and open Copilot from another program as well. So let me give this a try again, because it will make more sense when you see it in Microsoft Word and PowerPoint if I could show you how you get the agents. And it's weird that it did that on the side there. When I went to get agents from Microsoft Word, it took me to the website instead. But cross my fingers here. I'll give it a second to see if it will do this. But how are you going to use them? So let's say I'm in Microsoft Word and I go to the drop down for switch Copilots. I won't go into get agents again, but I already have a couple of agents that are right here. Normally when you're working in Copilot, you have your standard suggestions that Copilot gives you based on the application that you're in. Like it can summarize a document and those kind of things, just to show you that's what you normally see when you come into Copilot, this normal window. But if I switch to a different agent, like if I go to let's say I go to this decisions, just so you can see decisions is now open and it's not using the regular Copilot to chat with it. It's chatting through the agent called decisions. So if your company creates let's say that you have a contract that your company sends out all the time, or a proposal, or whatever the case might be. You might be in legal and you have a type of contract that you work with your clients on all the time. You could have an agent that was built for that specific type of contract. So you could open the contract agent that your company created, and it would have the different suggestions to it. So this decisions one has different suggestions to it than your normal Copilot prompts would be. Then we can have it, if I ask these types of questions, the agent takes over and is built around how we actually do that, how we programmed it, on what it is, the interaction we want it to do, just to kind of tell you what they do. So you can see right now, this decisions one. And by the way, this is one that is incorporated with all of my 365. You could see some of these suggestions are more meeting related, where I would probably use this more so in Teams meetings or in Outlook, but I can use it anywhere. Like, show me the details for my next meeting. I'm going to go ahead and click on that one and click go down at the bottom, and it's going to automatically analyze my information in the back. I can use this decisions, even though it's not directly related to Microsoft Word, I could still use it here in Microsoft Word. It's automatically going out to my Microsoft account. So it had to have permissions to access my Microsoft account. This decisions did, and that's where sometimes we need the help of IT. But what it did was it showed me, this is my upcoming meeting. If I need to open agendas from it, suggest agendas based on this upcoming meeting, get an AI meeting brief after the meeting, this agent called Decisions can help me do that. I can use it during a Teams meeting and after a Teams meeting. Oh, I should say before, during, and after. It's one of these agents that we can use all the time. Now, Microsoft is implementing their own, not released 100% yet. Some things are still in preview, but that will be coming. I won't need this decisions. It will be a part of our Microsoft 365 app automatically here shortly. Okay, they're still doing some testing on it. But just to kind of give you an idea as to how we could access that. If I go back to switch again, I could go into any of these other options as well. So whichever ones I have added in, I can have access to. Now I'm just going to minimize that down here for a second. I'm going to see if I can just get this to do something different here, if it will take me out of there. So let me show you how I could use an agent within a chat. So if I go to a chat that I'm doing with a coworker, a group of people, whatever the case would be, one of the current built-in agents is, if you go to the top right, there is this open AI notes. That is an agent. If I click on this AI notes, it's automatically going to open this pane, and it does a quick review of the chat that I'm in. I can ask it other questions related to this chat with this person or the group of people that I am in as well. So this is one way that it's integrated into Microsoft Teams. Now, so you saw just briefly how it was integrated into Microsoft Word. And when it wouldn't let me get into Get Agents, normally in Microsoft Word, I would be using an agent that is a writing assistant, because that's what we're doing in Microsoft Word is we're writing. And I was going to add a writing agent and do the demonstration of that, but it wasn't letting me go into Get Agents. So sorry, I couldn't demonstrate that yet, but hopefully by the time I go through a couple of other examples, I'll be able to get back in there and get that agent to work. But I want to talk about SharePoint. I feel that SharePoint is a big part of using agents these days. So if I go to a SharePoint site, just so you can see a couple of examples of using agents that are already built into your Microsoft apps, here in SharePoint, one of the things that we can actually be doing is, let's say that I go into editing. You know how I have I'm in edit mode right now. I'm editing this SharePoint page, so I have to have edit capabilities. But if I go to Copilot at the top right, if I go to the Copilot at the top right, come on. Sorry, it was a little slow. So when I come into Copilot, at the top right, you can see that it's giving me suggestions right away on how I could be utilizing the Copilot app itself. Here's my suggestions. But if I go to this drop down where it's got the name of my actual site, the name of my site is our intranet. If I go to that drop down, I have access to any of the agents that were directly created and saved utilizing SharePoint design. So all I'm seeing right now is the Get an Agent. So I can, oh, good, this part worked. This is great. So what this did when I came in here, and this is where you can start to see how an agent can be created from SharePoint. When I'm editing a SharePoint site and I go to the top right of the Copilot window, I can get an agent. So basically it says my agent is ready to use, but I didn't configure the agent yet. If I go to the right-hand side and click Edit, it will take me into creating the actual agent that I want to use with this SharePoint site. So up at the top, we would give it a name. So you would name it, and this is kind of that planning that you need to be thinking about. Just like we plan to create teams, we have to plan these agents as well. So who's ever going to be creating the agents? But anyway, just so you know, you want to give it a name that's really going to describe exactly what is it going to do. We can change the image. We can do a description to it, which I usually would do some type of a description that is going to physically describe what this agent is going to do. On the right-hand side, it gives you prompts of different types of agents you might want to be utilizing within SharePoint. So you could see that it can summarize any key highlights. It can create a facts based on specific resources, or it wants to know how can I use these resources. So we can actually go out and give it different questions, and it can help us build this. But anytime that you're going to be doing any type of an agent, there's a process it needs to go through, similar to creating Power workflows. I feel they're very similar. So once you're comfortable with one, it's easier to understand the others. But if I'm going to have it do something with this SharePoint site, we have to know what are the sources for that site. So and you can see at the top it says responses from agents are based on the sources selected. So users must have permissions to these sources. So that's a part that we need to work with IT on to make sure that they're going to have access to the sources of where everything is stored at to be able to utilize it through the SharePoint site. Down at the bottom, I can go into document libraries, or it can be based on the entire SharePoint site. So I'm leaving it as being just our intranet, and the source is coming from the entire SharePoint site. And then I need to go into behaviors. So it's kind of beginning with these 3 steps on a simple level. And I do have more information about creating these in your handout. I'm not going to go through those step by step with you because not everybody's going to have the same rights and not everybody has agents just yet. But I did want to include that in your handout. But these are some simple steps that we could become comfortable with and be able to utilize. Watch videos. 100% understand them much better before you start doing one that's going to affect the entire SharePoint site or your entire organization. But just so you can see, it's got different prompt starters that we could actually put in our questions so that if there's specific things that somebody's going to go into Copilot and ask, if there's things that we know, we can put in what our prompt starters would be for this agent that we're building, not for the general Copilot. It's for this specific Copilot. So if they're coming in and they want to find a document, we can modify each and every one of these to be our suggested prompts. We can give instructions to the agent. You could see it says, describe how the agent should engage with the users, provide helpful, accurate, and reliable information, blah, blah, blah. We could put what we want. As you are going through and creating this, you're going to click Save at the bottom. But notice there's also this Add Advanced Customization in Copilot Studio. In your handout is some information about Copilot Studio. Copilot Studio is the brains behind the agents. It's the application that is being used to design the agents. So I'm going to click on it just so you can see what it is. Advanced Customization in Copilot Studio coming soon. That hasn't been released in SharePoint yet, sorry. I'm just going to click Save for right now, but I will show you how to get into Copilot Studio here in just a second. So anyway, it's saving this. Now I didn't go to test it, but before you would ever go live with any of these, you're going to do a lot of testing. We do that with absolutely everything anyway. So it's no surprise that you would need to do some testing of this. But anyway, just so you could see, it's automatically going to save that. So it will become available. So you could see on the right-hand side here now, if I switch to that our intranet agent, it will give the suggestions because I didn't tell it to do anything fancy. All I did was I wanted it to be a Q&A where if I wanted to find a document, now I didn't change the other prompt suggestions, but if I click find a document, it's going to add that to the bottom just like a normal prompt would do. So you can see that we can have a lot of benefits to this. So what are some things in SharePoint that people are going into Copilot and asking it? Is it able to find it? Let's create some custom agents that are going to be specific to areas within the SharePoint site itself. So as you start to see more and more of how these work, they have a lot of great benefits. But anyway, I won't go through any more on that specific category of utilizing that, but that would be one example of using a Copilot agent within SharePoint. Now, of course, like I said, Copilots are available in a lot of other applications as well. It really kind of depends on which application it is that you're using. Okay, but let me show you in a document library. So let me actually I'll go to the clinic department because a lot of agents are being used directly within a document library. So if I go to a document library, come on. I'm going to go to the menu at the top of the document library when it opens. Depending on, of course, your screen resolution, we can't always see all the commands going across. So I'm going to go to the ... menu. Oh, why is mine not showing? Oh, there it is. Sorry. It is on my menu already. Usually I have to go to the ... menu. I've got a bigger monitor that you guys are looking at. But here's the create an agent. So if you click the create an agent, similar to what you saw a minute ago, it has this agent already ready to be used, but we would go into edit first. We want to go into edit and give it what is going to be the source, what is going to be the behavior we want it to have. So what are some things that people are looking for or needing to do within our document library? This is not very advanced on what you're seeing right now. Up at the top, you would give it a name like we saw a minute ago. We would do the description. If we wanted to change the image, we can to have it be related to the current agent that we're using. On the right-hand side, you can see that here's our current prompts that it's using. If we want to go into the sources, we could say add this SharePoint site to as well as the clinic. And then here the sources are coming from this specific library, not from the entire site. We can add in other document libraries. So if one SharePoint site had 3 different document libraries, we could be adding in the other libraries so that it's looking for more than just one library as we're using these prompts. So these are just some more simple things that we can be creating ourselves without having to know a lot about using these agents. Now, I'm not going to really add another one, but just so you could see, if I go into add, I could. But then, of course, you have to have your behaviors. So what exactly do you want it to do? Here's a welcome message. And then we can have different starter prompts. We can give instructions to the agent and then click save when you're done. Now, of course, there can be a lot more to this. Once the advanced customizations are available, you can go into Copilot Studio and be able to create additional prompts and different things that it can actively do. It can perform different tasks and things like that as well. So we could say, kind of like we have already with some of our features, like we want to get notified if a change happens to a document. We could say, if a document has this text in the title, automatically do this. So it can be similar to what we have with other aspects of using workflows and different things, because it does create workflows, but it's a different way of creating them and a different way of using them. But let me go back to the Copilot app, the Copilot app itself, and I'm going to see if it will allow me to get into create an agent. So on the right-hand side, when we come into create an agent, this is where we need to understand a lot more. This is Copilot Studio. So the information in your handout on Copilot Studio. This is where we manage our current agents and create new ones. So that some of these are relatively easy to create, but just so you could see, I'm going to go to the top left and click My Agents instead of just creating. I'm going to jump into Copilot Studio, and these are the ones I've used. So I had a customer insight, I had a career coach, I had a writing coach that I was using, but I'm going to go back and I'm going to click Create an Agent. So you can see how you get some templates that you could actually start with. So this is where you should practice, because we can always go back and delete them. But the first three that it gives you as suggestions is a career coach, a customer insight agent, and an idea coach. But there, if you go to the view all templates, you could see there's a lot of other types of coaches that you can be using. So if I want to have a meeting coach, I want to have a coach that is related to prompts, or a learning coach, whatever it is that you would want to create, you could create. I'm just going to do a simple one here. I'll just choose the Customer Insight Assistant. And what it's going to give you is, it gives you a description. I can always go back and change the template, so I can change my mind once I come in here. But this is what you're going to see on the right-hand side. This is what it's going to be creating. So in the advanced elements of configuring the agent, we can be setting up what we want when they open this Copilot agent called Customer Insights Assistant, which of course I would change the name. So back when I was on the beginning, I would have changed it. But we need to describe it, then go into configure it. Once we go into configure it, we can change the image it's using. I'm going to change this to be customer, I might just say customer assistant. Let me leave it as that. I would give it a description as to what this is going to be related to. I would give it the purpose down below. And notice there's quite a bit to this purpose. If there were any URLs that I needed it to go to, files, folders, that type of thing, we would do that as well. And they do need to be cloud-based. It doesn't go to servers or your local computer. But you could see it's got starter prompts that we could be modifying. We could delete these or modify those. Once you're done, and actions, that's not fully available here just yet. Actions is coming soon, where we can be creating different triggers and things like that. Once you're done creating it, you would go to the create at the top. Then it's going to save and create this agent that will now be available for you to use and or share with your coworkers. So remember, if you are using an agent, and some agents have to be approved by IT for you to use. So if you go into that Get Agents, not every one of those will be available for you to use. Some of them, IT has to say, yes, it's okay for you to use that. But it would actually walk you through how you could send a message to IT to see if they will approve you to use that or not. But anyway, just so you're understanding that that happens. But here's the link. So if we want to share that link with other people, we could share it. Otherwise, I could just go straight to the agent or close that window. So now I'm actually on the right-hand side. I can see that I have that customer assistant that I can go to at any time and use it based on the what we created for it to have for prompts. I need to get a customer profile, customer support, whatever the prompts is that you created and the response that you wanted to get out of it. Now everybody can have access to that. If you need to switch back to the regular Copilot, you go to the right-hand side on the top, click Copilot. It will bring you back to your regular Copilot. I'm going to try and click Get Agents, see if it will work here before we're done. I apologize for that. There are screenshots in your handout Otherwise, of course, if you have access to this, highly recommend going into the Get Copilot or Get Agents, because you'll have categories on the left-hand side of your screen that you can jump to or scroll through all of them. But like I said, not all these agents are going to be activated for you right away. Some of them do require a license, which means you have to pay for them. But if you have approved ones, your IT department is the ones that are going to have the approval process. But you can use ones that are specifically made by Microsoft, so you're not really stepping outside of something that you already have. I am so sorry I'm getting this error. I'm going to have to reboot and see if I can get that figured out. But in a nutshell, this is going to be the wave of the future with using any of your AI tools. They are going to have agents like this that will be available. This will continue. As you can see, some things are still in beta. We don't have everything released yet, but by the end of this year, this will be something we will all be using on a daily basis. These different agents within our different Microsoft 365 applications. I'm super excited for what's going to be happening here in our future. And remember, Microsoft's dedication to this is unbelievable. They really are very dedicated to making sure that we all have access to Copilot and these agents available.